Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Cloaks and Capes podcast. Make your wisdom saving throws to resist the charming allure of our voices. The DC is 25, and if you fail, you're already here, so don't sweat it. I'm one of your hosts, Robbie Landis, and back from her trip to Middle-earth, Kali Scale returns. Did you bring me and Diana really anything? Did you get us anything?
We brought some honey. They have special honey in New Zealand.
Right, but no, like specifically no souvenirs for your best friend.
No, we didn't. The Weta Workshop was very big on not stealing Boromir's sword,
right,
even though I really wanted it.
Sure, but there just wasn't also like cheap replica The One Rings you could have picked up thinking of us?
There was a replica of the One Ring. It was $900.
Okay, well...
I do actually have something for you, though. So
oh, good. I was about
to
say I'm going to take the dice that I bought for you and give them to somebody else now, but maybe we'll give them to you at some point. And, of course, our guest today, I can already tell is going to be one of my favorites, Kaylee Lopez. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello.
So I think that when it here I go, touch my mic again. So I think when it comes to having on guests with interesting backgrounds, or in this case, degrees, titles, educations. In me and Kali's case, we both flunked out of school. You are a gaming anthropologist and a therapeutic GM. So we have some things around that we're going to talk about. But first, I kind of want to dive into that a little bit, because I think normally when people think of anthropology, we think of archaeologists. We think of, they go out and like dig stuff up. But as I just learned from Google 30 seconds ago, anthropology technically has nothing to do with fossils or anything. It's just the study of what makes us human.
Anthropologists are the ones who will tell you whether or not something is a moss or a lichen and what the difference is. That's anthropology.
Not really.
No, it's not. Anthropology is the study of what makes us human. Yeah. So so when I saw gaming anthropologists, essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, what that really comes down to is, again, what makes us human in regards to the games we play.
Well,
your own words. Go ahead. Give us the...
So, as an anthropologist, you kind of look at people as animals. It's not as bad.
No,
as it
I
sounds.
get. I understand. We are.
We are apes, and if you understand the concept of like what an animal is, or like how we think or how we feel or how we interact with each other, you know that we have certain behaviors that we need and that we use as coping mechanisms or ways to survive, right? So play for people and also other I don't want to say monkeys because that's not the right word.
No, but primates.
Primates. There you go.
We are.
In the jungle, out in the world, play is necessary. Play is something that our brains need, and it helps build community. It helps teach our young how to do survival skills, how to eat proper food, how to like. I don't know if any of you have kids or like nephews and nieces or anything like that. Like you see the parents feeding the babies. Oh, here comes the plane. Oh, open your mouth.
Gamify it.
Yeah, it's gamifying feeding your children so that the child understands eating is a good thing.
Yeah.
Eating is fun. It's an enjoyable process. This is how I survive, by intaking food, right? But there's also peekaboo. How am I using my hands? How do I pick things up? And you're learning how to walk. You're learning how to communicate. You're learning how to talk. And even when you don't have those capabilities of like speaking easily or something like that, there's always a way to learn how to communicate in other ways, and most of that is learned through gamification, right?
It really puts into perspective, when we think about that idea of how, like, the older generations, as they grew up, they were taught to, like, okay, you're an adult now, so put all the toys away, don't play anymore. Like, that's already a sad thing to think about in general, and how much joy that takes away from your life. But when you also put it in the context,
also stagnate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when you put it in the context of like, we need play to survive, to learn,
It
and
is
to
true.
grow, it makes that whole thing like even sadder to think about.
And like you look at the modern aspect of play. We as a species need stories. Stories are how we learn our morals. It's how we learn to survive. You have that concept of sitting around a fire back in the old days wearing bear skins, and the elders telling you the myths of, the gods and the people, and you're learning what you're supposed to fight for, who you're supposed to protect, what the important ethics of your group of people are, because your elder is giving you wisdom through stories, and you're watching, this come to life in the flames, right? You're seeing the visions of these heroic journeys and all of that, right? So I said this to someone the other day, and it blew their mind. What do you do when you play a video game? Like, what are you actually physically doing?
Solving a problem.
You are sitting
Oh,
in front
literally
of...
physically. Yes.
You're sitting in front of a screen, having vivid hallucinations about your
I mean,
hero's
really, it's
journey.
it's just flashing lights that are, sending signals to your brain
So,
to imagine something.
What have we done? It's been like a billion years.
And we're still just sitting around the campfire.
We're still sitting around the campfire with our headphones on, with our friends and our family and our community in our headphones, going and having a journey, sharing an epic quest, sharing our morals, creating community.
Well, I mean, how many times you hear a DM talk about, I'm worried I'm going to be stealing from someone else. Every story's been told. We have been literally telling these stories since the caveman days.
I think, I think that, I don't remember who said it, and you can correct me at some point if I get it wrong, but I think someone at some point said that there's like 7
everything can be boiled down to like seven basic plot lines.
And
talked
and
about
they all
the same
get
thing.
retold over and over again for how many thousands of years. And
There's a theory that those are the 7 storylines that our brains can comprehend, and beyond that, we can't comprehend any other stories, which is a wild thing to think about for the vast majority of literature, but it is true. When we look at a story, we can always boil it down to and it's how do you make your own takes and your own versions of those stories and these different experiences. But I really love your take on it. At the end of the day, D&D is play, and we as primates do require play, which, by the way, to anyone who doesn't like the comparison to primates, I just saw a thing the other day about someone who was studying these chimpanzees, and one of the chimpanzees was, let's put it, annoying. Like, they were very annoying to the rest of the group. They were too handsy. They were too getting up in people's business. So a bunch of the other chimpanzees took him out on a hunt, and they basically took him out into the woods on a chimpanzee hunt, murdered him, and then came back without hunting, and basically told the other chimpanzees he died on the hunt.
Wow.
And I'm like, if that's not the most human thing
I thought they were just going to leave him there. No, they murdered him.
His
oh my
ass
gosh.
for being
All
too
right.
annoying.
Well,
you look at things like that and you think like, oh, that would never happen. No, it does. Absolutely. Look at history.
Throughout history.
Look, we do worse for less, and it leads us into today's topic, therapy.
Therapy.
Kind of, not specifically, but I'm sure that we've all heard the joke or we've seen the meme that D&D is therapy and dungeon masters are basically therapists. Here's the disclaimer. They are not.
They are not.
It is not.
Please see a licensed therapist. Therapy requires drug trials. Therapy requires approval and from medical boards.
This is
not that. Therapists are not that.
Official disclaimer. D&D is not therapy, and if you think you need therapy or that it might help you, seek out a professional. Now,
do not
Kaylee,
put it on your DM.
the way that I actually found you and decided to invite you on to talk about this was you were having just for the sake of not diving into that, we're gonna call it a spirited debate with someone on Threads about the difference between therapy and what being a therapeutic dungeon master is. Because I think that's a little bit more accurate on what D&D is for people. Is that it can be therapeutic, what can you sort of help to educate people on who might be like, well, what's the difference there?
Okay, so I legitimately went to a place called Geek Therapeutics, and I got a certification and training on how to create a therapeutic game based on acceptance and commitment therapy to help players practice words are thing mechanisms, right? Like speaking, which I'm having problems with right now, communication, problem solving, critical thinking skills, that kind of thing, right? I am not a therapist. I am not going to sit there and be like, well, you obviously have X, Y, and Z. I'm going to create a treatment plan for you. That is not what I do. I absolutely do not do that. My only experience with therapy is going to therapy. That's it, right? So what I do is I write and plan out games tailored to the types of things that you want to practice. So you want to be more assertive, I give you
opportunities.
Opportunities to stand up for yourself, say no. If you don't want to do that, it's a process. You get to there eventually, but I'm not telling you what to do. That's something that you have to do.
It's more of a self-directed kind of thing where you haven't gone to medical school or you have not.
Absolutely not.
My wife is a therapist. And I mean, she'd be the first to, when I used to make the joke D&D is therapy, she would always like give me that look and they're like, no, it's not.
But the thing is, it can be used as a therapeutic process by somebody who understands what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Therapists use it.
Yes.
I am not a therapist. I plan out games based on what you want to practice. But I also get permission from the person's therapist. And if the person wants me to talk to their therapist, have that conversation, that's fine. But I'm not a mental health specialist. The conversation is usually like, yeah, they need a little bit help, decision making, or, whatever. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to have this and we're going to do this and we're going to role play whatever. And then you're going to stand up there and, do your best.
So check me if I'm wrong, but would a reasonable comparison be something like you go see your doctor and they prescribe you physical therapy and you go see a physical therapist who helps you to do that?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Like the physical therapist isn't a doctor. They just know the exercises that you need
They can't
to do
x-ray your knee and tell you what's wrong with it. They just, here's what you need done. Great.
And so I spent a year, I'm not joking, I spent a year reading and studying and doing all of this stuff for acceptance and commitment therapy, just so that I can write D&D TTRPG games that other people can play. And I don't even have to be there. You can just play it yourself if you want to, and I don't tell people what to do. I literally, the first thing that I do when we have a session, I say, break my game.
They will.
Break my game. I want you to break the game. I want you to go against what you feel is your internal process and make it crazy. Because I want you to feel comfortable being as crazy as possible. And then, slipping into these actions. And the idea of being able to use an avatar to practice behaviors that aren't natural to you is also very helpful, because you're separating yourself from all of that anxiety, all of that nervousness, all of that guilt, I'm not like this, I can't. No, you make Bob the Barbarian who likes rubber duckies and whatever, and he goes out there and he's like, I don't feel like I like this, let's change the narrative. But you're at home and you're a people pleaser and you don't know how to say no, and your mom guilts you about stuff every weekend, right? But Bob is
my partner often when she makes characters, there's always sort of attributes or certain things that all of them kind of have in common, even though they are a little bit different. And obviously, I can't help but notice that there are also issues that she tends to have, in real life, confidence issues, anxiety issues. And by the end of the campaign, by the end of the game, the character has overcome those. And there's just something that feels good about that, and helps you in some way. But I'd love to know both of your thoughts, both as Kaylee, as someone who's obviously studied this and sees it happening with a lot of different people, and Kali, as someone who I know specifically uses your characters in ways to help you deal with things that you are dealing with, in your own life or have dealt with. And I'm sure that I do it because, to your point about your wife, being a therapist, Kali, she's sometimes pointed out some similarities or some reoccurring themes that I at least don't purposefully think, well, I'm doing this because I want to work on it, right? But why do you think that we are drawn to playing characters that highlight our issues or our traumas?
Well, if I may, I think Kaylee is going to jump on that one because, as you so perfectly put it earlier, from a young age, we are taught to gamify our problems and to find solutions to them. So when I look around in my life and I feel like, okay, I don't make enough money, the federal government is probably going to have me on a train to an extermination camp in the next 2 to 3 years. Like, these are problems that I'm facing, but I don't necessarily have ready-made solutions for. So there can be, first, an element of escapism to dealing in a world where I also have sick fireball spells to deal with people who try to show up and put me on a train to an extermination camp. And also, there's a degree of helping me to mentally cope with that and being able to mentally play a character who is dealing with something similar and gets to the other side of it, if for no other reason than to show me that you can get to the other side of it. At least that's my take.
Before Kaylee jumps, I want to give you a little bit more of a curveball here because I think that was a great answer. But I think that also, the way that you kind of started that answer, from an early age, we're taught to do this thing. And I feel like when you are a person who, at least from a certain aspect, you at least somewhere understand that you want to try and get better, right? You might not maybe well adjusted. I don't want to use that because we all have our own little problems and whatnot. But I think that a lot of people who are willing to and want to jump into D&D have maybe a certain type of grip, or at least an outlook on mental health, that they know it's a thing that they want to be aware of. But when you look at our society, there's also a very big section of it that isn't about, accepting how we feel, that is taught to push things down, that is taught to deny and stonewall and reject. And I think that even they sometimes, when you get into sort of issues like this, or when you get into sort of D&D, some of us seem to just inherently be drawn to putting our traumas in there that we otherwise want to ignore. Why do you think that is, Kaylee?
It's really easy. I mean, I'm not saying that it's like super easy, but it's easier to look at your pain and your trauma and your difficulties and insert them into us. I guess I call it self-insert fan fiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've become this much more capable and attractive and fierce version of yourself, and you are the person that can solve your problems. You are the one, even if you can't solve the problems, you can overcome them with grace and dignity. Or if you don't want to do grace and dignity, you can just blow it up, and it's great.
Fireballs,
it's cathartic. It makes you feel so good about yourself, all of those endorphins, all of those happy chemicals. It's carving new pathways into your brain and helping you get rid of all of your stress. You might not be able to do that like in your real life, obviously. But for that 45 minutes, 2 hours, you are the best version of yourself. And you win. You win at life. It doesn't matter what the life looks like. You win.
I think that's so poignant to say, because a lot of times when especially new players, right, where they're not really necessarily thinking I'm going to put myself into my character, but they're asked, okay, create a character. And so they start putting together this character. And then the DM naturally wants to know, okay, well, what's a problem that this character is facing? You know, what is their call to adventure? Why have they decided that they're not just going to tend the family farm? And the player, even if they have no practical experience, they're naturally just going to start thinking about, okay, well, what's a problem? And we are human beings. We write what we know. We tell stories of what we know. So we, even if we're doing it subconsciously, start putting our own problems and struggles into the character because that's what we know. And on the other side of that, like you're saying, it carves new pathways. A lot of the time after you've been playing a character who's dealt with some of this stuff, you'll come out the other side being able to handle it in a way you didn't expect before. When I had to do physical therapy for me was exhausting. I felt kind of embarrassed to be there doing that because I was like the youngest person in this physical therapy place by like 30 years. It was embarrassing. And every single morning when I went, I would put on the playlist that I used for my character Rosalind, and I would think Rosalind would go do this.
Because she had to. Remember her arm. She had her arm injury.
She had her arm injury. She had to go do this. She would get through physical therapy. She would go and she would say, I'm going to be the best one there that day. And I did that every single day before therapy.
All right. So here's my next question. Because, there may be people who have maybe heard the joke, right? But, they don't realize, maybe think that they're using D&D, maybe not even using, but that D&D is being helpful to them in that way. And, maybe someone listens to this and it kind of opens their eyes to like, oh, maybe then it could help me with my anxiety. It could help me, get more confident in trying to do something, right? And obviously, I think that this is like a sliding scale, something like someone who wants to be able to order for themselves at a restaurant, right? Could use D&D to get more confident at that. That's not that big a deal. But then, like you said, people who actually go to therapeutic D&D might be also using it for something potentially a little bit more impactful or serious in their life. So using D&D in this way, not in a professional setting, but let's say just you're in your home setting, right? Again, Kali gets therapeutic benefits from playing with me. Not all the time. Sometimes I make it worse. But is this a healthy, safe thing to do?
I mean, if you're going to approach it from a viewpoint of like therapeutic process, go to a therapist. But
again, again, D&D is not therapy.
Yeah.
If you need therapy, go to one.
So there are places that you can go to get TTRPG therapy with people who have training. There are plenty of online places. There are a lot of therapeutic places that offer it. I have a friend who lives in Europe who does this for autistic kids. Mm-hmm. And he's amazing, and he speaks like 5 languages, and just little kids.
So what
D&D.
about for somebody who they don't think they need therapy, and just for the sake of this, let's. Everyone can use therapy. I always think of like therapy as like going to the gym weekly for your mind, your brain, your heart, right?
Yeah.
It helps you. But let's say that they're not like in need of it, all right?
Mm-hmm.
But they obviously have issues. They have stress and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they're in a weekly game, with their friends, and they're close, kind of all that stuff. And they don't have time to necessarily go to, seek out what your like professional services, but they think, hey, maybe we could do a storyline or a character. I can talk to my DM that could help me work on this. What are your thoughts in that case?
Bringing that up actually brings up another thing, which is that sometimes talk therapy doesn't work, and that's between you and your therapist and God or whatever you believe in. But sometimes what you need to do is the activity. And, okay, so you're a teenage girl, life is hard, high school absolutely sucks. You go, you play some D&D, you beat up a dragon. How do you feel about yourself now? Tiffany or whatever, like, said bad things to me in the bathroom, but look at me, I just killed a dragon.
Tiffany's a bitch, but I slayed a gold dragon. So
yeah, like I'm the bad bitch now, right? And you feel so empowered. You feel so good about yourself. Tiffany doesn't know what D&D is. Like she's lame, and you are empowered, and you got rid of all of that stress and all of that anxiety and all those bad feelings. You beat something up, fictional, and you feel good about yourself. So like the next time Tiffany says something in the back of your brain, you're like, yeah, but you don't know how cool D&D is. Like you're the loser. It is an empowering. It is an empowering process. It is an empowering practice. Be like I said before, being the best person that you can be, and it doesn't matter what that looks like.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So I think the answer to that is it can be healthy. Is it safe to do? That's a big old depends, right? We've talked at length on multiple episodes, and we have an episode dedicated to it, the importance of session zeros, right?
Absolutely.
Because first of all, if I think you want to go into it thinking that like, yeah, you know what, I don't know how to deal with bullies. I'd like to boost my confidence. That's a great thing for D&D, but it's also something that you can't just thrust upon your dungeon master. So talking out these sorts of things beforehand is a big, big part of it, because everyone needs to be in an agreement on what the expectations, what you're hoping to get out of it is. And sometimes in moments like this, even if you don't realize it, lines and veils, things like that, you can discover things about yourself that make you think, oh, you know what? Yeah, okay, maybe I do. Maybe I should see an actual therapist about that thing.
my wife frequently will tell people, you should not present your DM with a trauma that you haven't worked through to some extent. You have to, if you're going to do it in a game, you have to have already worked through it to an extent, because your DM is not trained in how to help you through that trauma.
DMs should also have an understanding of how they work. If they have a trauma, if they have something that might trigger them, that's what the rules are for. I don't do this. I don't do that.
Why we have lines and veils.
Exactly.
X and O cards, check-ins after games, stars and wishes.
My specific rules at my table, I do not do any kind of gratuitous violence. No violence for fun. And absolutely no kind of assault whatsoever. And we do not hurt animals. I want that. Because I will personally have a complete breakdown. And it will make it worse for everybody at the table.
I have had a moment where one of my players has had their sibling die. Like, brutal moment. I sat there as the DM killing their sibling off, just feeling like a monster. And I'll tell you what, even as someone who's done that, I have never once thought about killing off the group's dog. No, can't do that. They would never forgive me.
I once lured Kali's paladin into a back alley full of thieves and thugs because a little kid came up and tried to pay her 1.5 copper. The copper was broken in half to come and help him save his dog who fell into a hole. When they got into the alley, he scurried away through like a little break in the building, and the Thieves Guild there was like, "We want to have a talk."
Oh, no.
Roz was like, "This is what I get for trusting children. My ability to trust is dead."
I will admit that I made a grievous mistake, which is the reason why I don't do animals in my table. I had a little jelly Roomba that cleaned.
Aww.
That cleaned my. Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I loved it too, until somebody decided that it needed to get squished, and then I just. It was just my thing.
That's sociopath behavior. What the hell?
First of all, I feel like if it's a jelly and you try and squish it, guess what? Bloop, just goes right back into its shape.
It had a miniaturizing spell on it. It was maybe like this big, and its job was just to clean up all of the little
ochre jelly.
And then one of my players was like, "I step on it."
You know what I'd have been like? I'd have been like, "Cool, you step on it. That boot now." No good. The soul is gone. You take some acid damage.
My baby.
Yeah, I think for all intents and purposes, unless some other sort of agreement has been made, if you get a pet, that pet's immortal. Those are the rules.
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
I was like, I have an extreme "do not touch my jellies" rule. Don't touch them.
There's my group, I gave them a dog in one of their games that was basically a Saint Bernard with like the whiskey cask around its neck, but it had a health potion cask instead. So it would run around on the battlefield, and if one of the party went down, it would run over and like give them a health potion. And they're like, "Wait, but I don't want it on the battlefield." I'm like, "The dog cannot be targeted, and it is immune to AOE's. Don't worry."
We make so many magic items, and a lot of times people will suggest something that is essentially like a familiar or like a pet or whatever, right? And whenever I make those, there's always the clause in there, like, it'll have like AC or hit points or whatever. And I'm like, look, if it drops 0 hit points, it just stops functioning until the next dawn, and then it pops back up again. Yeah. So it's good to go.
Yeah.
I cannot old yeller someone's pet. I just can't do it.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to sort of onto the end of this? I mean, I feel obviously there's so many, like, there's so much more we like, could go
do a whole mini series on this idea.
Right.
I mean, TTRPG therapy is like an actual therapy that was.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, I have a question for you. So let's say someone's listening to this. How would you suggest that they go about, I guess, figuring out or deciding if something like therapeutic D&D is right for them?
Well, if they've never played D&D before, go pick up a game.
That's definitely the best, a really good place to start, too.
And have absolutely no expectations, because you never know what happens. I told one of my children players that they didn't understand, so I was explaining to them, and they were like, can you win at D&D? And I was like, well, you can, but it's more fun sometimes to lose. And he was like, no, that sounds weird. But like, no, the expectations.
I think that has to do with like our perception of winning, because normally when we attribute winning and losing in a game, there's like a finality to it, right? Like you get to the end of the game, did you win, do good, or did you lose, do bad, right?
But sometimes losing is good.
You learn lessons in losing, but like we always want to win over losing, and so I think maybe it just has to do with like using different terminologies, because there's moments in D&D where we feel like winners because we did something well. Or if something bad happens and then we're able to overcome it, like even though we lost, like we feel like we won as players, even though the character loses. I mean, and it's definitely a hard thing to younger people, especially, I think, to try and sort of explain that too.
I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, and I do agree. But there comes a time when you have to take those concepts and what if losing is the good thing? What if losing means that you are being forced to look at the situation in a different way, and it helps you make a better decision, or it helps you see...
If losing is the good thing, wouldn't that be winning?
It might be winning, but while you're playing, you are thinking you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's fair.
Your concept, the way that you view... The way that you view things changes because that moment makes you grow. Right?
The greatest teacher, failure is.
Yes.
Grandmaster Yoda said that.
I mean, look at me. Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be, Indiana Jones. I'm going to climb a pyramid and all this stuff. And now I'm like, I'm in a wheelchair. Like, it feels like a failure. But if I had done all of that stuff, I wouldn't be here talking to you.
Yeah.
Talking about TTRPG therapy, which is amazing and helpful and is something that can help so many people.
It's amazing.
And I'm very passionate about.
You know, some of the toughest moments in life we do eventually look back on and go, yeah, that was horrible at the time. In that moment, that was horrible. Like, Robbie, when we got fired from Checkpoint. I mean, by the time we got fired, it was there was a degree of relief to it, but by that time, but we're now doing this because of that.
The most valuable lesson, like the single most valuable anecdote that was told to me, a story that was told to me that had the most profound change on my life and how I perceive it, was a story that my uncle told me about my dad when we, at his funeral, when we were driving to the graveyard, to the cemetery. And so, had I not been there at that moment for him to share that story, I could be in a vastly different place right now with vastly different relationships and how I sort of form those relationships. And trying to communicate that to kids. Look, sometimes you have to feel really bad and go through bad things to eventually get to a good thing. I do not envy that.
We do consider, like, when we think about children, and just like randomly, like generally, we think that they're fine. We think that they're just going through like normal kid stuff,
or they don't process things the same way adults do.
But the thing is that trauma changes your brain, and if this child is already coming from a place of difficulty, they already understand that losing happens and that it feels bad. But if you're able to somehow take a game and help and help them understand that sometimes losing just means that you have different options instead of it being a failure, that in itself is amazing.
I would love for some adults to understand that.
We could all use a little more understanding.
We could. I think, look, the final lesson we're leaving you here with today, and unfortunately, if you're listening to this, you probably already understand it to an extent, but who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there listening to it, not on headphones, and they have a parent or relative walk by who hears this, and it changes something in them. But as humans, no matter how old we are, no matter who we are or where we are, we need play to learn and grow. And you can never stop learning, and you can never stop growing. So something that we like to do here at the end of the show to sort of wrap things up is we have some Am I the Asshole stories, but they come from the perspective of the characters.
Oh.
So we get to have fun with these. You don't have to worry about like, oh no, we're going to hear like some really bad stuff. This all happened within character. So we're going to go through these, and we're going to give you a chance to help us decide whether or not these people were assholes or not. Now,
okay.
Before I read this first one, Kali, you get to go last, and you'll understand why.
All right.
Someone asks, am I the asshole for being logical and stating the truth? I, 28 male, am a paladin in training. I just took up adventuring after leaving the military due to some unfortunate circumstances. Our group is on our first mission for the guild. Flame, female mid-20s, our wizard and I, were chasing a lead in the city, and I thought it'd be a good idea to ask about her past as a bonding moment.
Fair.
She said she had a rough life, was unfairly jailed for stealing a few times. She said she was just trying to feed her daughter and didn't have the money to buy bread, which is why she had to steal it. And it took me by quite a surprise. So I said, so you did deserve to be jailed. Flame got really offended and since then has been very cold towards me. I was trying to sympathize about the unfairness, but that's a punishable crime no matter the circumstances. Am I the asshole paladin in training?
Oh, yeah, now I see why I have to go last. Okay, fair enough.
We love an empathetic king.
I think Flame is completely justified and is probably the best character in that game.
Boy, that's not biased at all, I'm sure.
I was, my character Ember is who this story is about. And
gave a very good, nice, compelling, fun, well, not fun, but very compelling, emotional story about being jailed, just blah, blah, blah. And the paladin goes, okay, so you stole, you did deserve to be jailed then.
And I want to turn the story into giving some props to that player, because this was still when they were very new to role-playing.
Second
or
campaign.
Third session. Yeah, second campaign.
And in fact, it was only because their first session was with me. We did 12 or 13 sessions.
Yeah.
So very, very new still to the game.
And so they had the idea to approach my character, who had a very sad upbringing, and she had talked about how, she had been on the streets with her, trying to raise her. She was only 16 when she became a mom, and she was trying to take care of this little girl. And one night she got jailed because she stole bread. And usually when you're a new player, you just kind of want to you don't want to get super in character. You just want to be and any reasonable person would be like, well, that's insane. You shouldn't be jailed for that. And to this player's credit, he was very in character as this lawful, stupid paladin who goes, oh, so you did break the law. You weren't unfairly jailed. And I literally just was so taken aback. What the hell?
Neither Flame or Kali expected that answer.
I would not.
It was so good. And it's a moment we still joke about to this day.
I will say that Paladin in training, at this point in the campaign, you were like a little bit of an asshole, but not for the reasons that seem apparent. Is what I'll say. But deep down, I don't think so. I think deep down you're what we like to call a golden dick. like you're a little bit of a dick, right? But like it comes from a place of you trying to maybe be good, but you don't have all the context, you don't have all the grace to deal with these.
You haven't learned enough about the world yet.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Our next one. Am I the asshole for making my coworkers experience each other's fears for team building? After our initial job proved that the group was lacking in coordination, teamwork, and focus, and many other things, it was decided we should have a team-building exercise. As the team had done so far very little with consideration of others in mind, such as leaving me alone in the forest with a cursed book for the night to sleep in a temple instead, I offered up to our boss an idea. The group is collected into a zone of truth, and we experience illusory approximations of each other's deepest fears. The information of what they are provided by myself. I was included in experiencing the fears, experiencing an additional one to the rest even. The attention here was twofold. Firstly, showing that somebody there would have an idea of what the afflicted was going through. They could have an idea of how to help, and the rest could ask that person for aid, or they could ask me, as I would have an idea since I supplied the fears. The second intention was to force a minor connection between individuals, giving them something to start with. This did not happen. Nobody asked for help. Nobody searched for clues to the fear to be more effective. Afterwards, nobody has mentioned it once. This ended in the group being angry that I didn't tell them that they can just ask for help. Am I the asshole? Feathers grow grayer by the day.
I don't know if you're the asshole or you're an idiot, but
was there consent for this? Like consent?
Yeah, like I think that's the biggest question. Did we bring them into a room, be like, here, stand into this glowing circle, and then we just went for it?
Yeah.
If I feel like if you told, like if the idea was, hey, we're gonna do a team building exercise that focuses on our fears, and then everyone's just mad that they can't cope with their fear. Like, I don't know that you're the asshole.
But if you just said, hey, we're all going to hang out in this room for a bit and chat, and then
let's
it
have
turns
a team
out
building
to be,
exercise.
and then it turns out we're going into a Nightmare on Elm Street dream, then you're an asshole.
If it's team building, right, that means that there's supposed to be some sort of team aspect.
Yeah.
Well, I think
the team, other than just standing there.
The team aspect here is that we all experience something together, and then figure out how to help with that.
But there's been no mention of help, right?
That we know of.
You got to include that in the am I the asshole? So we have to assume not.
All right. So Feathers, if they knew what they were signing up for, you're not the asshole. If you sold this as just a team building exercise and that was it,
you're the asshole.
Sorry, you're definitely the asshole here.
I don't like it.
Well, all right. That is our episode today, Kaylee. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at the end of the show is where we give people a chance to plug their stuff. Let people know where they can find you. If you have anything coming up or anything that you've worked on, anything you'd like them to check out, the floor is yours.
I honestly, I spend most of my time just writing and researching, and most of it is free. I'm on Medium. With all of my articles and stuff. And I have a Patreon, but it doesn't really do anything. I think I got $4 yesterday.
Hell yeah. That's $4 more than you had.
No, I know they can also find you on Threads and Instagram.
Yeah.
And we'll have links to all of your socials down in the comments as well. You have a blog as well? Is that something that gets sort of updated or anything?
I do have a blog. I have brain damage, so writing is really difficult sometimes. I'm not good at keeping up with it. Mm-hmm. I'm better at research and writing articles than I am of like contemplative creativeness, right? Mm-hmm. But I do have one.
Yeah, well, and at the very least, I know that I see you posting all the time on Threads, at least. So look, if any of this episode or Kaylee interests you and you're on Threads, seek out, follow. I know that you aren't always met with the best intentions in the comments, but I always enjoy seeing your posts on Threads and always feel like I learned something from them. So thank you both for that and for being here on our show with us.
It was really great being here. Thank you.
Yes, you are welcome back in the future as well. There's definitely more I think that we can potentially dive into on this sort of other avenues to discover. As for us, if this isn't your first time listening, you know what we're all about. And if this is your first time here, besides podcasts, we also do mainly homebrew content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition over at our Patreon, which currently includes 900 magic items, 13 subclasses, and the most recent of which is our College of the Culinarian Bard. And maybe by the time this is out, or at least sometime in April, yes, that's this month, we're going to be releasing a new species called the Mulzari, which is the idea of what if Tiefling and Aasimar, but together.
What if both?
So look forward to that.
And if you play the College of Culinarian Bard, you get to have little snackling minions who go do things.
Yeah, like imagine making yourself a gingerbread man, and then you can send it over towards your party member, and it buffs them, and if they eat it, they get inspiration.
Yeah.
That's the Bard in a nutshell. Find us on social media. We're on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and please, 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 if you want to help us grow, if you want to help more people find us, leave a rating on Spotify. It's literally one click. You could be doing it right now, or a review if you are on some other platform. I think like Amazon lets you do reviews, but look into leaving us a rating or a review. It definitely helps us a bunch. But otherwise, that's it for us. So until next time, keep listening or watching. Bye-bye.
The Cloaks and Capes podcast is created by the support of its listeners and generous Patreon donors. Special thanks to our myth makers and legends, Heartslot, Dolvik, Celtic Crow, Dark Flux, Gamergal, Strix River, Tater Thoughts, and Capelli. Views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of its host. Editing and production by Aaron Pillen, and music provided by Aidan Hageland. If you want to support the Cloaks and Capes podcast, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/cloaksandcapes, and check us out on Threads and Instagram at Cloaks and Capes TTRPG.